guess to start off, I guess we should talk about how we sort of came into this project here. I guess it was March of 2013. We were on a trip with our respective significant others up to the Old Forge region of Pennsylvania, aka the pizza capital of the world. And on the way back, we stopped at a place that we had seen on, I guess, Google Earth was kind of how we found it.
Yeah.
Seen it from aerial view. It looked sort of interesting. This place that we had found it to be called White Pines. On the way back, we stopped there and kind of took a while to find it. We hiked through the woods for about an hour, not really knowing where we were going, until we kind of came across this clearing, and the rest was kind of just there.
We were so fascinated with White Pines that it kind of spiraled into a full-fledged project that turned into multiple trips up to the area, learning that there were many resorts just like this, kind of all in the same state of abandonment, which led us to start researching why is it like that, what happened, and while we were there, we really discovered that our different styles worked well together. Even though we were at the same place, we kind of have completely different views of what we saw when we were there. My style is more surrealist. I like to do double exposures with 35 millimeter film, and Matt's style is more
just documentary, a little bit more clinical, square format, medium format stuff.
And so we just spent hours with our tripods and just looking in every room, figuring out kind of what went wrong, wondering what went wrong with the locations and what's happened since they closed till now.
So I guess we can start with White Pines. And again, we're going to do a Q&A afterwards, but if you guys have any questions throughout, just shout them out. So White Pines was it's been a resort of some fashion since 1892. The land was purchased to be a summer resort for German-speaking Jews. This was the case until, I guess it was World War I. Anti-German hysteria forced the resort to close.
This was about 12,000 acres of land that they had purchased, and then in 1919, they sold it to the Dress and Waist Makers Union, which were local unions in the area, which went well until the mid-1920s when they ran into financial trouble and had to sell it to the International Ladies Garment Workers Union, who owned it until 1990. And so this was really just a resort for union workers to come and relax and vacation.
Yeah, and the photo that you see up here is an aerial or semi-aerial view of the resort as it looked in, I believe, 1943. But it did undergo quite a few changes over the years due to several fires and just increased building on the premises. They kind of kept adding stuff to it. So I guess, do you want to get started and talk about?
We'll talk as we go.
Yeah, talk as we go.
Cool.
So this photo is one of Katie's. It's a double exposure that she did of kind of, I guess, just the first sort of steps we took onto the property.
After, I think, like an hour of hiking to kind of find this location. It was kind of like the, oh, we're here moment.
Which would be coupled with this, kind of the first glimpse you see of the building. And then getting a little bit closer here, you can start to see the modernist sort of design of the main structure there, which was designed by architect William, say it together, Lesas.
He was a modernist architect who designed the PSFS building in Philadelphia. And he did this in the 1930s, which was really exciting for them because it was like, something that really made people want to come. And we also discovered that during these fires and renovations, there was a new building added that had some of the infamous Diego Rivera murals that were rejected by the RCA building. Rivera made some duplications to give to White Pines to go on display.
Yeah, those were unfortunately also destroyed by fire in 1969, I believe. So unfortunate, but so yeah.
This is the first double exposure in the series that I did. It's a film photograph on 35 millimeter film using a Sigma fisheye lens, and it's all manual photography, kind of the view walking up to White Pines.
And this was again one of my first photos too, as we're kind of just getting closer to the building. View from underneath the far side of the main structure. One of the things that sort of attracted me to it, at least I'd only seen pictures of it really from the sky before we actually got there, and you could just tell from the top-down view that something was pretty unique about this structure. So as we're kind of making our way through it, you can see more of the concrete, very angular concrete structure.
Despite being vacant since the 1990s, the structure is extremely sound, which I think is pretty amazing.
Yeah, more or less, yeah. It's pretty good shape for now. And you know, water damage is definitely taking its toll a little bit, but overall it's pretty safe, except for some of the floors.
Yeah, as you can see in the next one.
Yeah.
This is the interior of, I think, one of the big halls.
Like a dance hall.
A dance hall. There's another building that was added later, I think about in the 1950s, they added a rustic recreation center called the Philadelphia Building, which was designed by another renowned architect called Louis Kahn.
Yeah, we'll get to a couple photos of that too. We have a historic photo of the exterior, but I'm not sure if we have any of the current state of it.
Here's some fun photos from one of the advertisements that we found in the location. So this resort was really popular in the 1940s and 50s because the federal government closed New Jersey's Atlantic City resorts during World War II, which really helped the Unity House to thrive. So instead of going to Atlantic City, people were going into the Poconos region for fun.
And again, we're still just sort of on the outside of the building here.
Yeah. And then, unfortunately, in the 1980s, their membership for White Pines went from about 450,000 down to 160,000. The American garment industry was experiencing serious decline, sewing jobs started to move overseas, and their membership fell. And unfortunately, in the 1990s, they were forced to close the location due to them owing a lot of money for taxes, not being able to pay for the resort. So this is kind of what you're seeing after the 1990s till now.
Yeah, and this room here, actually, this is one of my favorite photos of Katie's, but you can see the pretty big contrast between how I shoot stuff and how she shoots stuff.
Yeah.
But I think hers does a better job of kind of showing the scope of this room. This was one of the main dining areas of the main building. I'm not sure if the carpet was originally that color, but pretty much everything is a shade of green at this point. So, and then again, moving through that same room a little bit more.
It's kind of crazy to imagine, you know, some 400,000 people coming through here to the dining hall to have dinner and stay for the weekend, go to the lake. It was kind of an all-inclusive resort. You didn't have to leave. Everything you needed was there. Movie theater.
Amphitheater. The amphitheater is actually I don't think we have a photo of it, but is actually interesting because it's still active. It's the only part of that facility that's still currently being utilized. It's now a performing arts center. So they do summer shows mostly. They do nothing during the winter because it is outdoor. But so it is nice to see at least one component of White Pine still kind of being taken advantage of because it is such a nice facility. It's another cool double exposure by Katie up there. And some keys. It's pretty incredible. Just the amount of stuff that was just left, like kind of
Yeah.
as it was, hanging, like hadn't been disturbed really at all. And some of the putt-putt courses accoutrements had been moved by somebody before us, but yeah, this was the check-in area, lobby check-in. Room change.
It's amazing how many artifacts you can find left behind that kind of help you piece together the stories of what happened with the location, such as a lot of the advertisements and the room keys and the displays, and then contrasting that with the current decay of the location with the paint and the carpeting.
Yeah, this is another little contrast. I tried to put the ones that are sort of similar next to each other so people can get an idea of stuff that see a little bit differently. And then some office areas in the back here. Main lobby.
So this kind of encompasses, we went in the winter, so you'll see a lot of snow in these pictures, which I think is added to what the current look of the place, that it's just every year that goes by, I think it gets harder and harder for them to sell the location because it's just going to have to be a mass rehab. This location is a little bit more secluded, so in comparison to our other locations we visited, there hasn't been as much looting on this location. Some of the other locations, we've seen a lot of the rooms torn apart, looking for copper piping and kind of everything like that, but this one is so secluded in the woods and gated because of the amphitheater that it's almost like a pristine look of what it was like before it closed, which is really kind of special.
Yeah, this is another one of my favorite ones of Katie's. So you can sort of see how she used that double exposure to sort of play with your conception of like what's inside, what's outside. Like this is what right here.
Yeah, that's about the same look from Matt versus mine. So it's looking into the bar from one of the common rooms, and mine is a double exposure into the bar, and then also the view right outside the window of what you're seeing.
You could also get health spa treatments while they were there. I believe this is some sort of tanning bed. They also had steam rooms and a device I forget the name of, but it was essentially a box with a bunch of light bulbs on the inside. It was some sort of cleansing effect. I don't remember the name of that. This is the Philadelphia House archival photo. This is the building that was designed by Louis Kahn. I'm pretty sure that this is from the interior of it. I wasn't able to match it up exactly with the exterior, but I'm fairly certain that this is from the building that he designed. This is the entrance to that building. And then we get into some of the cabins in the same area, a little bit.
Yeah, so imagining when you're there are these beautiful large buildings where people come together in common areas, but then there are these really cool little cabins in the woods. So you kind of have your own little quiet retreat in the woods away, and you can go in and be with people or come back and have your own quiet room among the trees. And this is one of those rooms.
Yeah, and I guess due to just the construction, I guess they're mostly wood instead of concrete. They're falling apart at a much faster rate than the rest of the structures. And there was also a fairly large theater, which was used for projecting movies. The movie projectors were still intact and in the balcony. They looked like they weighed probably about 2,000 pounds. No movies were left, though. I didn't see any anyway. But this was used for plays, presentations, etc. Another view of the seating area there. And another phone booth. A lot of phone booths up here.
Oh, there's one of the prized pictures of our series. This is in the projector room, right?
This is behind the curtain.
Behind the curtain.
Yeah. And yeah, little passageway down there to who knows what. I'm not sure where that is. I lost the nerve to go down there after a couple false starts. One of the dressing rooms, the floor in here was actually a complete sheet of ice due to leaks from the ceiling. Actually, almost the entire building was like that. You have to be really careful. Getting down towards the water, this was the bathhouse. Changing rooms, things like that. So this is right off of the lake, which it's situated on. And then a couple more. Got more like office meeting areas, things of that nature. I don't know if it was actually left like that or if somebody rearranged it. It's hard to believe that it was just still intact in that condition, but that's. And another one of the recreational facilities here. Oh, and that's the exterior for the health club. Ice. Katie's ice. And that's the front of the health club. We did not go on the top of that.
No.
The stairs look like they're about to come down.
So one of our favorite mysteries of this resort is that in the middle of the woods, there is a phone booth, just in the woods, in the middle, and we had to go see it. So when we went, we both took different versions of the phone booth, and it's kind of interesting to think about phone booths because they don't really exist anymore. In our society today, you just have your cell phone, you get out and you call somebody. You don't need to go to the middle of the resort to the phone booth to make a phone call to people back home.
Yeah, and it was unusual. It was the only one. I didn't see any others anywhere else that were sort of like this one, just kind of off in the middle by itself. So I don't know. I thought it kind of just something about it just sort of summed it up for me. So yeah, it's definitely one of my favorite sort of discoveries that we made there.
And so through our talk, we wanted to show you more photos outside of the ones in this exhibit that are framed on the walls. A lot of these photos are also in our book, Beyond White Pines. And then we have a couple extra tidbits in the series of what we're talking about, just to give you guys the overall view of our view from what we've seen. Mm-hmm. Kind of give context to the pictures on the wall and bring them into the full story.
Yeah.
So here's some of the cabins.
Yeah, the design of these contrasts pretty deeply to the rest of the place, but they still definitely have their charm. Where did you find this, Katie? I don't think I even saw this.
It's one of the globes to the lighting on the main building. Of the more modern structure that had fallen down, but it kind of looks like a space helmet, which is what interested me about it.
Yeah, it's cool.
And I think the most fun was just being able to go at our own pace and look at every single thing in the area.
Yeah.
And kind of wander around separate from each other and then come back together and say, oh, look what I found. Oh my gosh, I saw this. And you know, Nick and Carrie finding paperwork and saying, oh my gosh, there's this document that they owed this much money, or, you know, here's the check-in sheet from 30 years ago.
And real quick before we get to the next place, there was actually another resort right to the north of White Pines. Unfortunately, the vast majority of it had been demolished a couple of years ago, but trying to find a place to park, I actually found a couple surviving structures, teenagers setting stuff on fire in there, I'm assuming. So a pile of old brochures that somebody had burned. This was more or less just a golf course at this point that had been active within the past couple of years, but the rest of the facility had been torn down. And it's sort of the exterior. It's pretty overgrown at this point. And then I think we're about to go on to the next one.
Cool. So this is the next resort that we came to discover, and it's called Penn Hills. There were about, would you say, 5 total resorts that are now closed, or
that we
about
explored,
a handful?
yeah.
That we explored, about 5. All of these resorts were really popular for people from New York back between the 50s and the 80s because it was too expensive to go to other honeymoon locations like Hawaii or places where you'd have to fly, it was too expensive. So $300 a night was more affordable at one of these locations. But then I think kind of an overview would be that around the 80s to 90s, people could afford to, for the same price, go outside of their area somewhere a little bit more exotic for a honeymoon or a romantic getaway. So that's why you'll kind of see that now a lot of them have closed. This resort started as just a tavern in the 1940s and grew in the 60s to include over 100 rooms, ski resort, golf course. In the 1964, they actually acquired the World Fair lights from the World Fair and an ice rink, as well as their famous wedding bell shaped swimming pool, which I love. This resort really tried to focus on honeymooners and couples getaways. So there's a lot more heart-shaped tubs and carpeted ceilings and
carpeted everything. Walls.
Carpeted everything.
Yeah. So that's one of the light posts right there that Katie was mentioning. Yeah, it's very cool that they were able to, well, recover it at least for the time being. The majority of them are still standing, so
yeah, they're really pretty, and
somebody else can snag them and do something else with them.
It went with the sports vibe of you can come and you can ski and you can play golf and you can do tennis, and kind of sports oriented couples who want to come and still be active and have fun for the weekend or go hiking. They also have a waterfall and some different types of water that run through the resort. You have to kind of walk over little bridges with little babbling brooks.
Yeah, and much like White Pines, it was really like a lot of the design features that sort of attracted us to these places. Just this was a bit of a later era to it than White Pines. It's not quite like as 50s and 60s modernist. It's kind of getting to that sort of 70s kitsch.
Yes.
Like this room reminds me of something out of like A Clockwork Orange. You know, it's like the whole room, and you can't really see it with my square format style, but it's totally circular. Just like mirror oval shapes everywhere, and just very surreal. So
very, very mod. Very mod.
Exactly. Yeah, this is what the rest of the office looks like today.
This resort is right on a main road, so if you're in that area driving through, you'll just see it. I mean, there's no hiding it. So there's been a lot of looting. This is actually pretty rare that there's one of the heart-shaped hot tubs is still in the ground, because in most rooms they've been ripped out and looted for the copper piping or really anything that someone could make money off of.
Yeah. And apparently people have been going and actually stealing the hot tubs too.
Yeah, anything that someone can make money off of, they have. So this resort was run by the founder until 2009 when he passed away. He was 102, and pretty much 2 months after he passed away, they closed, and it was discovered that the resort owed $1 million in back taxes. Mm-hmm. So they've been able to sell off some smaller parcels of land, like the golf course and the ski resort, but the county has tried to auction off Penn Hills multiple times to help pay off the back taxes, but it still remains unsold. I think the son of the owner went in, had about 2 months to take anything that was worth anything, and since then it's just been left to be explored or hopefully be sold at some point, including the fun art from the rooms. Definitely a little different than the art you'd see now.
Yeah.
in a hotel room that you'd stay in for a weekend.
This was kind of an odd one for me, because this phone book, I think, if you can see the date, I think it's 2007 to 2008, which I'm pretty sure is a little bit after anybody really should have been there, so I'm not really sure what was up with that.
That probably was about the end of that when they were open, if they closed in 2009. I was reading some TripAdvisor reviews of the location from their later years when the owner was very elderly. And it was really kind of sad to see from the heyday when they were billed as the paradise of Pocono pleasure to these rooms were terrible. The check-in lady told me I should go look at the room before I pay. You know, those sorts of things just kind of left nothing was working anymore in the rooms. It was pretty much just people who were there just to kind of gawk at the past eras.
Yeah, and we should note too that there are still a couple of resorts up in the general vicinity of this one that basically cater to the same clientele that this one did. And they're still very much active. I think the condition is definitely a little bit better than this one, but they really haven't updated the decor or anything like that. So if you want to see what this was like when it was still active, you can check out Cove Haven or Paradise Stream. They usually offer a Groupon. So check them out. Yeah, we unfortunately did not get to experience their. They're expensive, They're like $200.
Yeah.
That's a got a nice little fake fireplace here. This was from the Tiki Bar. Carpet on the floor, carpet on the walls. Yeah.
And right outside of the Tiki Bar is the wedding bell shaped swimming pool, which we'll get to soon. But I just love the colors that they chose for every room. It's definitely very 60s and 70s.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you can see it there too. It's like very vibrant reds. And these buildings I love too.
Just the design. That's the exterior of one of the rooms you saw with the circle bed. And that room had shag carpet to a hot tub that was heart-shaped, and then you had a staircase up to your circle bed with mirror ceiling. So that's kind of what the inside of that room would look like.
Pretty much the gist of that. Yeah. And then, some of the storage areas. We're just starting to kind of get everything in one place, it looks like.
Yeah, I can kind of imagine them saying, get all the TVs in one place, we're going to sell them, and then not. About at the end.
I think that's pretty much into Penn Hills. I think we're getting into Pinewood.
Okay.
All right, so this is I think the last one that we're probably going to talk about today. This was another resort that was very close to Penn Hills, but sort of a slightly different vibe. It was also geared towards honeymooners, but it was much more reserved. It was also like a dry resort. They didn't serve alcohol. Alcohol wasn't permitted on the premises. So it was a slightly different clientele than, kind of the party animal crowd of Penn Hills. So instead of getting, drunk in the tiki bar, you can go play putt-putt with your new bride. So this was, they had a fairly large recreation area here. So upstairs in the recreation hall. And one of the strange things about this place was the condition of it, contrary to any of the other places we went to, was just vastly better. It really didn't look like, in some spots, like it had been abandoned at all. Almost to the point where we were a little bit more worried than usual about, whether or not we should be there. This was the main lobby area. Again, you can see this is like basically untouched except for the crease in the rug. It looks like it probably did the day they shut the doors.
It's almost like a time capsule, like a sealed time capsule of the resort, because it's definitely not what a resort would look like today by any means. It almost looks like a vintage, advertisement. Your photograph.
Yeah. And even the office, still cigarette butts in the ashtray. People's photos still left there, stacks with newspapers. One of the cool things about this resort is it had the main airport of the region for many years. So it had its own airstrip, airplane hangars. They would fly talent in from New York City, musicians and comedians to this airstrip to perform either at this resort or any of the other ones that we kind of went over today. So that was pretty cool too. And again, more photos of the office. Again, the keys just still left there, just like in White Pines. This is a cool thing that was found by our research assistant, Carrie, my girlfriend. She, one of my favorite things is, while Katie and I are sort of running around, going crazy with our cameras, she'll just find the office of whatever resort we're in and just like hunker down and, go through their filing cabinet and sort of just see what interesting documents she could locate. And this was, I thought, a really interesting sort of glimpse into, that, mid to late 60s era, the Vietnam era. She found a couple of letters from people who had been drafted that were essentially requesting refunds for their honeymoon at this resort because they, were being called up to service. They would be provided with the refund from the resort, provided they could give a copy of their draft record. However, if I think it was if you were just in the Army Reserves, that was not an acceptable reason for a refund, and there were a couple pretty nasty typed letter battles back and forth about that. So I thought that was a really interesting find. That kind of just gives you like a real interesting glimpse into that time period. And again, just a little bit more recreation halls here. A little mural. This is where the roller rink stuff was being stored. And a lot of stuff that didn't make it into the book. It's just a little too dated for me. Not quite the era that I'm interested in. A little too 80s, not quite 60s enough,
So it's been really cool through our exhibit to meet lots of different people who've come to the exhibit who actually used to live in the Poconos area, who kind of helped us find out more information that went along with what we've found in our own research, which is that the taxes in that area for homeowners as well as business owners are so high that it's actually forcing a lot of flight of homeowners, as well as the issues with these resorts not being able to make it. So it's been really interesting to kind of meet people from that area who can concur the same kind of issues that even the people who live in the area are moving and couldn't afford to go to the resorts because the taxes on their own house are so high.
Yeah, we had a woman come in, I guess it was one of the open gallery days after the opening, and she was from the area, and she basically just said exactly the same thing you were just talking about, like taxes on just like a regular middle class person's house would be like in the tens of thousands of dollars per year. It's just like totally unreal.
Yeah.
So it's like, how can you sustain that,
Which is why I think even some of these resorts that have been kept in better condition and probably could be easily renovated are still just left because even just owning the property is probably too expensive to be worth it at this time.
Okay, just a couple more from this pine wood. Again, this one pretty untouched. That was really the only graffiti I saw in the entire place. Pretty tame compared to a lot of graffiti you see elsewhere. And of course, it wouldn't be complete without a bowling alley, which is again still pretty intact, except for the ceiling falling down. And the gift shop.
I think it's interesting to think about what's happened in the Poconos area in comparison to what's happening now with Atlantic City. A lot of the casinos there are closing down, and it leaves me wondering, is that where we're going to end up in 10 years, going to look at resorts that in a city that's no longer thriving at this time? And if they close down just like they did back in the World War era, is that going to be the same thing? Is Poconos then going to be more interesting because it's closer, because now Atlantic City shut down again?
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see if the Poconos could see some sort of resurgence, maybe because of that or other factors, or just because maybe people are becoming more aware of it. There are definitely resorts up there that are thriving and doing well. One of the things that I definitely wanted to hopefully avoid with this whole project is we don't want to make it seem like the entire region is like this, like every resort is closing down and there's nothing there and it's just a total disaster. It's quite the opposite. There is still quite a few very nice places to stay, and the region itself is beautiful. But it'd be great if it could kind of get back to maybe a little bit more what it used to be, because it's probably my favorite part of the entire state.
Oh yeah.
Just driving around it is so much fun. Just seeing the natural beauty of the area.
So many waterfalls. This is near Bushkill Falls, which is also close to Digman's Ferry waterfalls, and there's a lot of campgrounds still around that you can stay at in the area.
And actually, I think we have one more place. This is one last resort for you guys. Another honeymoon sort of geared resort. This one, much like the others, very mod. Carpet right next to the hot tub.
Not really sure how that worked.
Yeah.
Shag rug right next to the hot tub.
Yeah.
It seems a little hard to clean to me.
I'm not sure if I'm into that, yeah. But this place was also very cool, like the little bubble bubble windows there. All the numbers for the cabins were, of course, heart-shaped. This place shared a similar feature to some of the resorts that are still open today, like I believe Cove Haven, in that some of the main cabins were like a large circular building, or cylindrical, I guess. And each room was like a pie piece, like almost like a pie piece out of like a Trivial Pursuit, game piece. And in the very back of each room was your own private swimming pool. So that was kind of a neat little thing. And again, just the furniture in these places is really cool too. And of course, the artwork is also pretty awesome. And that's one from Union House. Again, stuff just sort of piled up, sort of left to go, and swimming pool filled in, with concrete, and that's pretty much the gist of it. All right.
Thank you guys for coming and for all the great questions.